We could have made it easier because I was down at the Intercontinental, and that wouldn't have been such a long walk for you.
Yeah, that's good. We walked.
That's where we were.
Yeah, and with the walking.
First, I'm like, oh, well, we should just go now.
Yeah. But yes, so Sue and I are sitting here with the amazing, and do not use that word lightly, Don Coscarelli. I have been a fan since Beachmaster.
Oh yeah.
So I've seen everything.
And how old were you when you saw Beachmaster?
Really, do you want to know? I was like, I was what, 82, so
Yeah.
I was 10.
Yeah.
I would have been almost 11.
It had an impact on you.
It totally did. Yeah, and we were talking on the way up because we wanted to ask, because they always say one of the things you don't work with is animals. And you worked with animals on Beachmaster, and of course John dies at the end, there was the dog.
That's true.
So how much of a hassle was that?
The thing is you need, with animals, you need to just realize what the possibilities are, because they are limited. In animals, there are trained animals, few, mainly dogs, some, I think dogs, what else? That's about
People.
it. No, I'm going to tell you that all of the animals on our movie, except for the dog, was essentially they just go to where the food is. So it's really more a function of figuring out how to hide food and artistically do so. We had there's one great sequence in the Beastmaster, really proud of, because these little ferrets have been trained to go to a bell, a buzzer, where the food is. So what we did is we needed a scene where the ferret was looking for the Beastmaster, and he was going from door to door. And so we put a buzzer with some food, a buzzer with no food, then a buzzer with no food, and then a buzzer with food. So they would beep it, he'd run there, they'd beep it, he'd run there, he'd beep it, he'd run there. And
that's fantastic.
Probably not too kind to the ferret.
These guys are pissing me off.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they were pretty well fed.
That's fantastic. And then the one thing that I've always loved about your films is that they always just seem a little left of center. Like, there's definitely more of a cult appeal than a mainstream appeal. Like Phantasm, when I first saw it, which I came too late because I never got into horror movies as a kid. I came to them late. But then I watched all 4 of them like straight through in a row. Yeah. And they're just, everything you do seems to kind of embrace that kind of odd, slightly off look at the world, which is great. And it seems to come through in your writing. And I just so identify with it. I mean, so where, like, I know you adapted John Dies at the End, but where do most of your ideas come from? I mean, do you just wake up in the middle of the night?
Well, truthfully, with Phantasm, maybe the singular moment in that film, maybe the singular moment in my career, that flying silver ball, really did come from a dream. And it's the only one that did, that I can remember. And I'm going to say that, I had a dream where I was being pursued by this device chasing me around, and I thought, wow, that would be interesting. And then I was trying to figure out some sort of answer to what was going on with the tall man and his character, and it started to go into the sci-fi, and so I was able to fold it in, and it went well. I don't know that I could really analyze myself. Maybe a psychiatrist could tell you where they came from. But I will tell you that I am certainly attracted to oddball material also, which is why, of course, I would make a movie about a 70-year-old Elvis fighting a 70-year-old mummy.
I love that movie.
See, I read that short story, and I do take a little pride in the fact that even the author, Joe Lansdale, he was baffled why, of all of his stories and books, that would be the one that I would make in a movie. And he said he didn't see that it could be made into a movie.
Oh.
And yet, from the moment I read that story, I was, because I really identified with those characters. And,
I saw that when I was working at Jumbo Video in Kingston when that came out. And people were like, well, because I was a supervisor at that point, the owners were like, well, we're planning on bringing like 1 or 2 copies, and I'm like, no, bring in like 10 to 15. I will pimp the shit out of this movie. Everybody was like, what do I watch this week? Have you seen Baba ho-tep? All you need to know is Don Coscarelli, Elvis Presley, Bruce Campbell, and a black JFK.
Yeah.
What more do you need?
Don't forget the mummy.
Dude, I watched that repeatedly, and then the commentaries you guys did were fantastic.
Well, what about that Bruce Campbell commentary? I mean, it was one of the most brilliant things ever done, and it's amazing because he was able to essentially write 90 minutes of Elvis content, and it's pretty hilarious. So.
It is, yeah. That's always my favorite thing is to see what you guys do on the extras because I love to see how you guys make the film, and the passion you guys bring to making the stories. I loved hearing all of that, and and then
glad somebody's watching this.
Totally.
Sometimes we put a lot of work into them and don't know that anybody really notices.
Are you kidding? It's amazing. And the fact that as soon as I heard that you'd picked up the rights for John Dies at the End, I went and read the book.
Oh, did you? Wow.
That's as soon as I heard you were doing it, I'm like, I totally have to read it. And then I was at the screening that you guys had for the Raven Banner screening in the Sinister Cinemas.
Oh yeah, that was a great night.
And I hadn't seen it until then. And it was totally worth the wait. It blew me away. It had all my favorite moments.
Oh, good. Yes, we had to leave a few by the
Yeah.
wayside.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, of course.
But the fact that you guys got the freezer meat monster in there, it was amazing. And I heard you talk about it, that it's all prosthetics and it's all...
Yeah, pretty much all prosthetic, like 95%. But once again, I wish I could take all the credit for it, but wow.
Do it, you're the only one here.
Well, we've got some people. But struggling to try to figure out how to make that, because basically the idea was that the freezer opens up and all these pieces of meat come popping out, and then they assemble themselves into the monster. Trying to figure out how that we would do that, for a long time I was thinking that it's going to have to be some sort of digital construct that would work. But an animator friend of mine, David Hartman, took a pass at an illustration, and he did an illustration. And the first time I looked at the illustration, I thought, oh, we could do this as a man in a suit, because the way he had designed it with the meats. And so that was great. And then I took that and talked with Robert Kurtzman, who's one of the great film prosthetic effects guys, and a director, wonderful director in his own right. And he created a more detailed drawing that really looked awesome. And then, they spent so much time and put so much effort and grunt labor into that thing for no money and created this. It was when that suit got on the guy for the first time, it was like a work of art.
Yeah.
I really would love to see that thing in a museum somewhere because it's so detailed. I mean, there's so much that we couldn't show on the. They're like in his shoulder, he's got a whole like an 8-pack of Frankfurters, and he's one hand is a whole pineapple ham, and he's got bacon strips all over him, and then there's that trout that goes up his back. It's really a sweet costume.
It was so much fun, and like both of your leads were like first-time actors.
Both actors,
Yeah.
Well, I've been really lucky in that respect because a number of films have had to be made on essentially micro budgets, and one of the conditions when you go into one of those is that you're just not going to be able to have legitimate expensive actors because it just would not work. And so that was one of the first conditions that we decided in making the film. Was, the script works great. There's some wonderful character roles for we've got Paul Giamatti, Clancy Brown, and Glenn Turman, and Doug Jones, all these great guys, and they can each come in for a couple days each. We got to have the glue. We got to have these two guys, but we'll never be able to afford it. Plus, the other thing is that when I'm making these micro-budget movies, I really try to maximize the shooting time as much as possible. And the only way to maximize the shooting time is it needs to be spread out because you need days off to figure out how you're going to get the next batch done. So we kind of set it up on an intermittent basis where we never worked more than 4 days a week, and some days only worked 3 days a week. But we had to hire those actors to do the whole thing. It'd be like 15 weeks, so they had to be, at rock bottom minimum price. And we found these two guys, Chase Williams and Rob Mays, just great actors.
They've got such good chemistry on screen. It's a lot of fun to watch them.
And then you premiered at TIFF, Midnight Madness.
What a wonderful venue that is.
Yeah.
In that year, that was last year, I had the opportunity to come into Toronto early, so I was able to go to, I think, 4 Midnight Madness screenings before our screening.
Amazing.
and it's just such a fun, great night.
Colin Geddes just whips that crowd into a frenzy
does.
before every screening.
Yeah, it's like red meat. You know, he gets them salivating, and yeah, Colin's even though I'm not Canadian, he's a national treasure, and this year has a good lineup. You know, I've got some Friends movies. Lucky McKee and Eli Roth both have movies in it, and also there's a new movie called Almost Human, who I've been a director before, which but I can't comment on those movies. So.
Is Eli producing something as well?
This movie, I believe he's directing.
Yes, he's got The Station or something maybe. He's got something in Midnight Madness, but I thought I saw him as a producer on something else I'm seeing as well.
I think that was last year. There was that earthquake movie after.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then to wrap it up, I've heard a rumor, but I just want to confirm your all-time favorite movie.
Well, I have to admit it vacillates from time to time.
That's fair.
If I want to just go from a strict artistic point of view, in terms of style, mood, atmosphere, composition, and music, gotta be 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Nice.
I love that film.
Brilliant choice.
But lately, I've been watching over and over again this wonderful character drama from the 40s, The Best Years of Our Lives.
Ooh.
If you ever get a chance to check it out, it's really a movie about these veterans coming home from the war, and it really deals very honestly with their condition in terms of how these guys, one of them comes back with no hands, and imagine in 1940s having a star of your movie just wearing hooks. I mean, unthought of. You know, it has other who's divorced because his wife's leaving him because he was off at war.
Wow.
And another guy who's becoming alcoholic. You know, and so they're all damaged, and how their families bring them back together. It's a great film.
Yeah, actually, that's my list right now, especially for the 40s to do material like that.
It's amazing. Great score too. Hard not to cry when I watch it.
Nothing wrong with that. Don, thank you very much for finding the time to chat with us. That was amazing.
Hey, my pleasure. Just great to meet you guys.
Oh, yeah.